The former self regains its former self and explodes with all its stored power. The third espada, Nelliel tu Oroshvank. In addition to being easy to use, she is a high standard character who shakes up opponents with her unique techniques. Her normal attacks and steps have a wide range, so she can close the distance between her and her opponents in one go, which is also a strength. Her special flash attack has a long range and can be used as a surprise attack. Although it is difficult, it is also possible to get close to the opponent while avoiding long-range attacks. She is a 4-star ease of use character, not very strong off rip, but she is extremely fast, pretty durable when it comes to that defense, has really good range, and is pretty special skills oriented as well. Her unique skill, Preparing for Pursuit, is a gauge that fills up when you hold down the button. The gauge is consumed when you use a spiritual pressure technique, resulting in an additional attack. Pretty much, she has her own special gauge that when charged feeds into her spiritual pressure technique 1, and the more you have that gauge charged, the more attacks that spiritual pressure 1 technique can use. Along with her unique skill, she gets a unique specification, Chase Stock. By consuming the gauge accumulated with unique skills, you can add derivative attacks to some attacks or cancel stiffness steps. Since Nelliel's basic attack power is low, you should use it actively to increase damage. This is why they made her attack so low to begin with, because you can just keep stacking this gauge to get that spiritual pressure technique 1 to do more attacks, which in turn does more damage. But the language I want to focus on is where they say or cancel stiffness steps. So what I think that means is during certain portions of her attack string, she'll be able to cancel out that move and go into a different type of move. So pretty much she has an attack cancel similar to what happens when you're playing with Ultimate Gohan in Dragon Ball Fighters and you start increasing his power unleash levels, and it unlocks different ways and different combo chains and different ways that you can string those combos together. I'm thinking that's what they mean. If not, either that or some type of dodge cancel or an extra dodge. So the language there is very, very unique, and I don't know exactly what they mean. So I'll be interested to see when we do get more gameplay. Hopefully during Jump Fest, they'll show off a lot more of these characters and we'll be able to see more. Her first spiritual pressure technique is Quick Piercing. Rushing into the opponent, if the thrust hits, it will lead to a continuous attack. You can also perform additional attacks by consuming the gauge of your own technique, so you'll want to fill up the gauge in advance to deal damage all at once. The way that this starts out, it is a very, very simple move. She literally just thrusts at the opponent in a straight line, and if that thrust hits, I don't know if it has to hit and they're not blocking, but I assume even if it hits on block, you can still get the continuous attacks. And assuming in the trailer, the 2 follow-ups she does is because she doesn't have any special meter built up, I'm wondering how many attacks she'll actually be able to get at the end of this. What I'm thinking is when you have the meter fully charged up, she'll do the same thing that she did in the signature move area of the trailer and throw a Seto at the very end of the combo. And as you build that meter up, there's more and more hits in between that initial hit and when she ends off with that Seto. So I think that maybe at most probably like 6 attacks total is what it'll build up, but that's a complete guess. That is a complete guess. Other than that though, it does seem pretty straightforward. It's just she has an additional combo structure that gets added as she builds up that special meter. Then they show us her spiritual pressure technique 2, Fusion Void Flash. She summons Peshe and Doronchaka to unleash a giant hollow flash. It has a particularly long range and high damage, but it takes time to attack. Now, I wonder if the signature move will also increase either the amount of damage or how long the beam lasts or something. I wonder if it'll still have an effect on this attack as well. But something interesting that I noticed during the initial trailer is the fact that 2 or 3 times during the actual charging of the Zero, the opponent cannot actually move. So if you look closely, you can see that Ukiura is trying to recover and take a dash forward, and both of those animations get paused as this move is getting charged up. So I think that if you see somebody committing to a heavy attack and you throw this out, you might actually be able to interrupt the attack. So say somebody that has an attack like Renji's sweep, where it's the 3 continuous attacks, if you see somebody throw that out and they're not at that good range, you might be able to just completely nullify their attack with this Zero because they can't get out of their attack animation fast enough to dodge it. Then they show us her awakening, Sword Liberation, Antelope Knight. By releasing the sword and releasing the Antelope Knight, the performance is strengthened. The change in attack motion makes it easier to gain an advantage by stepping closer to the opponent from outside their range and launching a long-range attack. Now, I don't know what exactly they mean by long-range attack, because the only long-range quote-unquote attack that we see her do in the awakening portion of her trailer is what I believe to be her spiritual pressure technique 1, and it's really just her lunging in from a longer distance. But I can see how, because of the length of her little spear thing, it'll be hard for opponents to get within a range where they can attack her without already getting hit by her attacks. I can definitely see that. Unless you're a character like Renji or like Uryu and you have that zoning in you, it'll probably be very, very hard for you to get in and to do actual damage on her once she activates her awakening. And then we also see a little bit how the attack string changes as well. So I'm thinking that as basic of a character as she seems, she still has that second layer to her once that awakening happens, and it's going to be like fighting 2 completely different characters. So I'm excited to see how that ends up turning out when we get to see more gameplay of her in her awakening mode. I also think that because we have Peixe and Doronchaka in her attack animation for her spiritual pressure technique 2, I don't think that we will be getting them as actual playable characters. I think this is soft confirmation that they are not going to be playable characters, which in turn means that this is probably going to be a roster of a smaller size. It's going to be enough characters, in my opinion, probably around like 40, maybe 50 characters, but it's still not going to be huge, nothing like Sparking Zero, nothing like Storm or anything like that, which is cool because, you know, if they have a smaller roster, that means they can still focus on making every single character as unique as possible. So there are still benefits to having that smaller roster size. The homie In says it looks like she'll play similar to Samus, charge up her signature move, and then unleash massive damage if she hits you with it. That is actually a really good comparison. I have a hard time relating these characters and certain aspects of the game to Smash, even though that is a direct inspiration for this game, but that is a very, very good comparison. You know, Samus charges up her cannon. The more you charge it up, the more damage it does, and you can just have that charge pretty much whenever you want. So yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. The homie L says special meter adds extra attacks to spiritual pressure technique 1, maybe 5 or so max. This means her spiritual pressure technique 1 can hit hard, but might not be worth using back to back. And that's an interesting take. I think it depends on if this is the type of thing where you can cancel mid combo and still keep some of your meter, or if it's like once you initiate those extra attacks, you're all in for the rest of that attack string. So I don't know, because like I said, with the language they used in the chase stock where it says cancel stiffness steps, I think you might be able to stop your combos mid attacks or after certain attacks and still be able to keep some of your meter alive. Lumina says, low-key disappointed she doesn't have her Zero Doble as a move. I think that might be her Kikon move, or it might be implemented in the Kikon move, because we do see, like the homie N pointed out in the Discord, we do see a little bit of what could be a combination of all those zeros, and that's what she's using as her Kikon move. But I think that they're still gonna have that in there as somewhere, but it's just not a part of her natural kit per se. The homie Ryo was disappointed as well, so I can kind of understand where he's coming from. For there to have been so much build up, they took the week off, whether that was for the holiday, whether that was because they were dropping Death Note, as In says, or whether that was because they just wanted a break. I think that they kind of did us a disservice by showing off just Nell. They did show off the new stage, which is really, really good, and we did technically get 3 characters, 2 of which aren't playable in Peche and Doronchaka, but we still did get some more characters revealed. But I wish they would have either given us more espadas or a different espada altogether. I'm a sucker for Grimmjow. I wish we would have got Grimmjow, maybe even Haribel, because, you know, if you know Haribel, you already know what's up. And honestly, she's probably one of the least exciting espadas to play as from my personal preference, but I'm still going to be excited to play her and see what she's like. So if you guys like that one, definitely leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. If you want your comments to be featured, also make sure you join the Discord, because there is a higher chance for you to get a feature comment like these guys in the Discord. So link is in the description. It's been real. It's your boy Lee the Warlord, and I'm out of here. Peace.
Fuck, I'm a gangsta.